Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. I'm your host, the alleged wrestling know-it-all, Gene Jackson, coming to you as always from the Retro Wrestling Archive in beautiful Gadsden, Alabama, as it's already time for the USWA 1993 season finale. Can you believe, folks, that we have already been through an entire year of USWA wrestling? It doesn't seem possible, yet here we are. So, it's been a year since we started the show, a little over it now. Actually, this is episode number 57, and we've got some fun stuff in store for you this week. But to have fun, we're going to need some help. So, as always, help me in joining my co-host, a couple of podcasters who are just far too wild, Josh Briley and Richard Mulliken of P3 Radio. Guys, welcome. How are things in your neck of the woods this morning?
Awesome, Gene, man. I've been up for so long now. I've got my Red Bull. I'm fucking fired up, man. How you doing, Richard?
He's got his copy of the Indian Times. He's ready to go.
Do we want to explain that so we don't just leave that hanging out there?
Josh follows Indian news for whatever reason. When their plane crashes and whatnot. Now, this guy has been up so early that he has seen all the news in the world. He will tell you about it as you're trying to fix computer problems.
And as a friend of ours would say, he was fired up about that Muhammad Hassan episode of Dark Side of the Ring recently.
Yeah.
So, congrats on that one. But, guys, this being the season finale and all, we've got a special treat. Even though everyone is here present and accounted for, I've asked the pinch hitter co-host to join us so he can chime in with his thoughts on the award, since he's watched each and every show this year, whether he was on the podcast or not, which is more than we can say for some people. Kidding. He is the owner, founder, and president of STSPod.club. Spoiler alert, it's Brian Tramel.
All right, how's everybody doing this morning?
Oh, my Lord.
Whoop, there it is. Brother Gene, Brother Josh, Brother Richard, I figured if this was the last episode, I had to come in and do my Paul Neighbors imitation. So there you go. I got some people back yourself. There. I got some people back there. In the very, very back, they're going to be listening to what we have to say this morning. So,
well, I know who I hope one of the people are you have captive down there in the shed there.
No, BT, I don't associate with them anymore, so there we go.
Well, I was hoping he's going to take them out, but that's fine. They'll take themselves out eventually. How are you doing, man, besides being nude, apparently?
I got pants on. I'm doing good to my best friend, Wrestling Know-It-All, Gene. And my favorite co-host of P3 Radio, Josh. Well, Richard's there, too. Hey, Richard.
Hey, you want to get that mole checked?
Yep. Whoa, wait now. And I'm brought to you by Furbuster. So there you go, Furbuster, if you know what I mean. So
give that thing a shot there, BT. I used to do podcasts with Delbert Jenkins, who was only nude from the waist down. Now you're the opposite. You're nude from the waist up. So y'all would have made quite the duo. So to speak.
Hey, for what it's worth, your shed is a lot more organized than Paul Neighbors.
That is
Thank you.
Or shed.
Shed.
Oh, okay.
The shed.
Definitely.
You almost had a couple seconds there to be the first show that I had with titties on it. That was close, y'all.
Well, if Josh will ever find that tape of Toni Adams that when she fell out of her top, we'll have another show with titties on it. We're hoping anyway. So this week's episode brought to you by VIP Championship Wrestling, coming up June 21st in Tupelo, Mississippi. The big event there featuring Vicky Guerrero and all the top stars from the Mid-South. I will be there selling the Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert book. You can also catch me June the 28th at EPW Wrestling in Boonville, Mississippi. I'll be there doing commentary and also selling copies of the Eddie Gilbert book. If you're there, please stop by and say hi. Tell us what you think of the show and whether or not, A, you're excited about 1991, and B, if you're still going to watch the video version after seeing BT topless here on the show. I don't know if this is going to be a show long. I thought this was going to be like a bit at the intro, but now we're 14 minutes in the recording, and he is still sans shirt and hat. He's still in the.
That's what I'm giggling about. This whole time. He's having to just sit there till you go to a break. I'm assuming that's what he's doing.
I was sitting there thinking when you were talking about Paul Neighbors having health problems, he was going to slowly put it on, like shamefully, like yeah.
Well, here we'll let you step out for a minute here and do what you need to do, because now your banner's showing. It's killing the gimmick there, brother. So I'll talk for a minute, and once I see you on my screen with clothes on, we'll bring you back. So tag out.
Like he was coming to you from Al Jazeera to radio, wasn't he? It's like,
I swear, all y'all got to do is send the money, and I'll be home.
Oh my. Well, that's a hell of a way to start the show off. Guys, it's been quite a year of USWA action. There's been highs, there's been lows, there's been in-betweens, there's been lows, but I think we can all agree we've had a lot of fun along the way, right?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, like to me, I have a lot more fun with, watching USWA again than I would even like say ECW or something of this same year. That for every bad thing that happens, there's something that's so awesome. And if you try to compare it to anything in the wrestling business at the time, it was really unique because a lot of the WWF stuff was happening, and to just a kid like me just watching live every Saturday morning, and then Mr. Perfect just pops up, or Lex Luger or whoever. That was extremely unique.
Yeah, and I feel like we've covered several unique points of view with the show, because Josh, you were watching it live every week, big fan, your uncle's on there, quite frequently. You got BT, who was a longtime fan who had stepped away from it during this time. So he's kind of, he'd heard about stuff, but he's watching it for the first time. Richard, who was a fan, but you weren't really following it during this time, right? Was this kind of before you were?
We had just gotten cable, and and my mom got married in March of this year, so I missed a lot of this because as soon as we got cable, she got married and we moved to another house that couldn't get cable. So I would just catch it periodically when I was at my grandmother's house or whatnot. So yeah, it was, I missed a lot of this year.
Yeah. In real time, I didn't get to see a lot of this year. I was following it through the magazines and different things. And then I was able to catch some of it here and there. And then of course, once I was able to start tape trading, I went back and watched it all later. So I don't know. It's not like we're all super fans that are going to have the exact same perspective, but we're not all people that are just watching this for shits and giggles to make fun of it either. So
I believe I was still recording it every week, but not watching it. I was just busy. And then because I remember the Vince stuff and it being a big deal and being able to see it, the day it happened or a few days after it happened, somebody said, "Did you see if Vince McMahon was on the show?" So I had the recorder and I was recording it, but I really wasn't watching it every week. So a lot of this stuff was brand new to me. I loved it. I loved some of the stuff's god awful, and we all had so much fun with it. But it was fun to watch new Memphis wrestling. I watched it on Sunday morning, and kind of a routine that I did every Sunday and watched Memphis wrestling. So it was fun.
Yeah, I don't love current wrestling, so anytime I can find old stuff that maybe I heard about, but I really haven't seen it, that I can kind of get into, that's a lot of fun for me. So, and that's kind of the deal with going back to 91. It's so far removed from it. What I did see of it, I don't remember a lot of it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the show, kind of our reasons for going there and everything. But let's go ahead and cover this week was the December 25th, Christmas Day, 1993 episode of USWA Championship Wrestling. And because of that, there was no live show in the studio in Memphis. So what happened was this was essentially a pre-tape show, And it's not like, hey, we taped a show early. We just took clips. It's like a clip show. And it's not even like greatest moments of 1993 or anyway. It's just random matches from like recent episodes. Like all but 2 matches on this show were things we've just done watch-alongs of in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I didn't realize that until I sat down earlier this week to go preview this week's show. And I'm like, all right, wait a minute. I've seen that. And then I started realizing what was happening, and I went back and did a little research on it. And I reached out to you guys like, I think we can just make this week the finale of the award show because there ain't, 20 minutes worth of stuff to talk about. So what was on this show that we hadn't seen, there's a Mike Anthony wrestling Nature Boy Buddy Landel with Toni Adams match on the show that we haven't seen because they pulled it from our version that we saw. So that's new to us. We're going to watch that. And then we get to see some highlights of Double J defending the unified title against the King. And we're going to take a look at that. And then once we finish that, we'll talk about the card from Monday night on the 27th of December, how it drew, what happened, and then we'll get into the awards, which should be fun. I don't know about you guys. I went back and scanned through some of like the Monday night results and different things from throughout the year.
That's what I did, yeah.
Names would pop up, and I go, oh, God, I forgot all about that person. I changed some awards around a couple of times whenever somebody popped up that I'd totally forgot about. So, but I made it a point for us all not to discuss it beforehand. That way, somebody's going to surprise us with, oh, shit, yes, that's right. I forgot about that type thing. So, should be fun. So, let's go ahead, and this will be interesting doing a watch-along. We're still trying to iron out the kinks of the watch-along format anyway, and doing it with 4 of us. Should be an adventure. So let's see here. There he is.
You're not going to leave us on the screen so we can see ourselves up there?
You may leave you up there?
No, I'm just kidding.
Man, that is some hair.
I like them tights.
Oh, wow.
So here comes Buddy Landel. He's got Miss Jennifer Simpson, as Corey Macklin calls her, Toni Adams with him. And she looks like she belongs with Buddy Landel. This is quite the deal.
It looks like the hot chick and the scud that you'd have to jump on or have a wingman friend to jump on to pick them up from the bar.
Exactly.
Her and her weird-looking aunt.
Look, that guy almost fell down, I think.
Well, I'm guessing these two probably got along and bonded over a few things, and a mirror for more reasons than one, if you know what I mean.
I bet Buddy ended up with pink eye. Him and her had the pink eye together. I'm pretty sure.
And a stomach pump.
Yeah, they all got it together. They went into the ER with pink eye and stomach pump.
Couple stomach pump, brother.
Get a discount when there's 2 of you.
Buddy taking this time to sit on the mat as long as he can.
Oh, yeah, there's no sense of working.
No, Kevin, I didn't pull his hair. He's lying.
Kevin's got a white shirt on instead of that fucking red shirt.
Yeah, he heard the complaints.
That was awful.
I bought some new dog food for my dog.
Good
and
God, where's this going?
And it comes in a can. And now all I think about is Miss Simpson when I'm shaking that shit out. I'm like, how did we let that go? She two-handed shook a full can of dog food out with like 3 shakes, just whack, 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 and it was done. I was like, how? Two-handed. We could have photoshopped that or whatever we wanted to do to it.
I think it's pretty ironic because I'm sure Josh has thought of Miss Simpson when he's shaking
that dog.
Yeah. Jennifer Simpson.
It's definitely not two-handed, though.
Oh.
Well, that's...
I don't know.
We heard about his dad and, genetics. You just never know there.
So, as USWA TV matches go for the year, this has been, a fun little match so far. Not saying it's been action-packed, but it's better than the squashes we've come to know over the year.
Just as he said, as Josh, pointed out, some of these matches all of a sudden you start seeing they're like house show matches, and this is kind of what you would see, at Blum or Jonesboro or something like that.
No question about it.
I hate everything Buddy's wearing.
He's not wearing anything.
He's getting heat with me just by being out there like that.
Yeah, there's only it's only like maybe one person I've seen that could pull off the no knee pads, and that's just because I only saw him that way. But Buddy,
that's really
now
flattering look there.
He does look like a drunk aunt from a distance, does he not?
like something coming out of a pool or something.
Yeah.
Where'd I put my towel?
Y'all don't look at me now. I'm greedy for other men.
Well, he does have some good-looking titties now.
This is not prime Buddy Landel in '93. Let's be honest.
Y'all leave Buddy alone.
I was
Somebody
always a fan of him.
Somebody online said that Mike Anthony had passed.
Oh yeah,
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
see, I'm always torn about that to like mention right out of the gate when somebody debuts, like, well, you know, they're
He
dead.
did.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just feels like kind of a bummer. But at the same time, yeah, there's been different people where people will message me and go, I didn't know so-and-so was dead. And I'm like, yeah, it's wrestling. And just assume if you're watching some shit from 1993,
They're all dead.
probably more than half of them are dead.
Yeah.
And so really, it's kind of surprising that as many people as, good Lord, look at that. So right here, Buddy Landel is putting his fingers all in the mouth of Mike Anthony, literally.
Both ways, stretching it out.
Yeah. He
Looks
was,
like
You
you
never
got
know
a
where
roller
Buddy's
coaster.
fingers have been. Woo.
no,
Oh, God.
got to guess.
Fingers. He put them fingers
Wait a minute.
somewhere.
Sweeps the legs, feet on the ropes. He gets
Oh,
the win.
yeah, baby.
Awkwardly rolls out.
Y'all leave him alone.
She said all these wrestlers might be dead. I was like, hell, Buddy died twice during this match.
Yeah.
Are all three?
She rubs the chest of Buddy Landel.
Is she dead too?
Yeah.
Oh my
She's-
God!
You
Everybody
seriously
but
didn't know that?
everybody
We
but
said it.
Kevin. Kevin is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. We said it on the show and you don't watch.
Oh my God! Nah, I don't watch y'all. I watch the real show. I don't remember her. Y'all saying anything about her dying?
Yeah. She's shaking that dog food out in heaven now.
Yep. He's feeding
Getting
the
her
dogs in
stomach.
heaven.
You think
Which,
she gets her stomach pumped in heaven?
bless her heart, there's plenty of moon dogs for her to feed up there. So. Or down there, wherever, you know. We won't speculate. But. So Brian Christopher has come out here. He's squared off with Buddy, and they're yelling back and forth.
But you remember that old WCW wrestling video game from like Nintendo, like the
Yes.
old original? That is what Buddy looks like. He looks like every character. Like if you see how he's standing, kind of, you know, belly first. I don't know how he's finally
Like you're-
standing like that.
Like your dad challenging you to a match.
Or your drunk aunt on the front lawn yelling at you with her shirt off.
He looks like he'd probably start flashing right before he does a finish, like they did in that game too. Like if blood pressure
Yeah.
shoots up.
So this was the week apparently after the Hooters came out, because she's wearing
Yeah.
that velcroed up top there.
Yep. Yep. You can pinpoint which week this match was based on what she's wearing there.
Yeah.
All right. So Brian Christopher laid down in the ring and duped Buddy into coming in attempting an elbow drop, which, surprise, surprise, he missed. But then he managed to get right back out anyway. And this is taking an awkwardly long time here.
Brian's in there. He's scared, ain't he?
All right, so now we're going to go to clips from the King challenging the now christened Double J, no longer the Fabulous One, Jeff Jarrett, the unified champion who won the title a few weeks ago and hasn't been back since.
I just got one final thing to say, and then I'm fixing to show everybody a good wrestling lesson. If you hadn't got anything nice to say, if you hadn't got any good to say about Double J, I would rather you not say anything at all.
Come on in there, Jeff. Jerry Lawler wearing his Pepto-Bismol attire tonight. I hate that. Always hated that outfit.
What'd you say this match? It went 20-something minutes, but they didn't start wrestling until what, the 10-minute mark? Or
Yeah, they
something?
said 10 minutes before they ever locked up.
Oh, God.
I used to hate that strut.
It's ironic that he had called himself the Fabulous One for 9 months, never strutted once. And he becomes Double J, and it's all he does is strut.
Do you think Lawler forgot to pack trunks that were a different color or something?
I hope so, because there's no excuse for that. That's just too much. And especially the way the lighting looks on this tape. Like, it looks awful on TV. At least need to throw some black trunks on or something.
Yeah.
Get that Hart Foundation from 1987 look.
Jerry the Hitman Lawler.
I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. So it's so funny, like, Jarrett just returns here in full Double J mode. He had the music. He's.
You done made me mad. I came to wrestle. Now I'm here to fight.
This isn't really a heel move where he goes out, gets on the mic, says, "Now you've made me mad. I want to fight," and comes in and just starts whipping Jerry Lawler's ass.
Right. Oh, shitty DDT.
You like that DDT? Now I can use it for heat because it sucks. Unified World Heavyweight Champion.
I saw going for the fist drop.
I saw somebody post something on one of the Memphis boards the other day. It had a picture of Jerry Lawler, and it said, "Say something nice about the King." And I was like, "Oh, that's." And then somebody said,
logged off for the day.
Somebody on the comment said he gives a great thumbs up, and then I noticed his half-assed thumbs up in the picture. Oh Lord, he flipped over the ropes.
I guess we're trying to make Jarrett like a monster heel here because he's
telling
beating the shit out of Lawler. He even managed to land the fist drop. I mean, it didn't win the match, but
I'm not sure that Jeff hadn't went into business for himself here.
Oh.
What's old Frank doing? He's really close. Almost screams like you're fixing to hit me.
That's why.
Yeah, there it is.
They're like, "Not yet, Frank. Not yet, Frank. Now, Frank."
Lawler bashes right into him.
Lawler's like, "I would have found you from the other side of the ring. You didn't have to get between us for 10 minutes." Now Jeff Jarrett's going to pile drive Jerry Lawler in Memphis. That's sacrilege here.
We always come up with when we watch this, the weirdest people are alive. Like, not the athletes, but it's always like, Frank Morrell's still alive. It's like, what? How?
He was 62 years old back then.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm old now.
I'm not even to the age that Frank was when he was reffing.
Apparently, having a neck is not necessary to live a long life because he has no neck to speak of at all. His head's just directly on his torso, and he's still with us. Look at that deep pin.
What? Is Frank Morrell still alive?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I was joking.
No.
I said that to be kind of like.
He's not in great health, but no, I thought you knew. Yeah, he's really alive.
The meter's still ticking.
It's the slowest count ever.
Even Bronco Lubitsch somewhere was going, "God damn."
We always used to joke, Josh and I, when we were kids, about having somebody pinned and like having Frank Morrell come in the one Mississippi.
The funny thing, there's a heel referee in Mexico that does that. It's like he's healing and no one knows it.
Frank's speaking in Spanish.
Yeah, he does it on
Hola.
He'll do it on the baby faces, but on the heels he'll count real fast.
Poor favor.
But he don't do that here, so
Uh-oh.
Frank's like, "I ain't getting up."
Just finish it now while I'm still on the mat. Damn.
yeah, Jeff beat the shit out of Jerry.
Look at him, he had them knuckles up.
Yeah, I know, he's frogging him.
I'm gonna frog him.
Uh-oh. He went for that fist drop, and Lawler's like, "Not a second time, buddy. You get one."
Man, Corey is annoyed during all this commentary. Jesus Christ, he's horrible.
It's an exciting title match, BT. You gotta have enthusiasm in there.
Did they do those? Did they do those live? Did they do the?
He did, yeah, sometimes, but he was doing this one live. Yeah, you could tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and you usually can tell when it's just taped over because like the crowd noise is so minute when they throw the voiceover in. But like these, he's actually doing it at ringside.
Or you hear him where they used to do them fucking interviews where he's echoing.
Yeah, you hear like he's in a hallway doing commentary. like he's on somebody's podcast and there's an echo and the commercials are on.
Lawler's still selling his neck for the pile drivers, but Corey says he's selling it from the suplex. So, yeah, he never even mentioned that he just took 2 pile drivers. Good God.
BT, I'm going to haunt you. You keep making fun of my commentary.
Corey's dead? Well,
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I hated that, BT. Oh, that's Randy. What was I thinking? Randy's alive?
I'm not dead, you son of a bitch. You wish I was.
How big is that elbow pad that Jerry's wearing?
Folks number 2, baby.
Frank's earning his money.
Looks like one of those freaking volleyball knee pads, and he's got it on his elbow.
And no knee pads, it doesn't look like.
No,
you ain't seeing nothing but kneecaps.
I'm with y'all. I think you forgot some stuff on that.
He hodgepodged his costume together tonight.
Hey man, can I get that elbow pad there? It's a knee pad.
Is Jerry gonna give him another pile driver in there like he's Andy Kaufman? Oh,
Jesus Christ! That was a
Lawler drops a fist on Frank Morrell's back.
I didn't notice that the first time.
Let's hit him with another pile driver.
Oh,
boom!
Why did Lawler hit Frank?
I don't know.
It doesn't serve his purpose. Like, well, who's going to count now, dude?
I mean, to be fair, Frank would really count.
Now he's got to wake him up. I mean, I know he wanted to pile drive him, but he was face down. You didn't really have to do that.
All you have to do is just pat somebody to wake them up. Y'all didn't know that?
Exactly.
It's like when out of the sleeper, you got to pat them on the back, you know?
Referee can be knocked out for literally 30 minutes, and then when it's time for the finish, pat him on the back. And 1, 2, 3.
I love this part right here. The straps are down. He's punching Jarrett. I love what Jeff does.
What does he do?
Hold on.
You're getting me to it, Brian.
He will pour down the straps. Just wait. Here he goes.
His straps is a little more dramatic to pull down. He's got to flip his hair up, and camera didn't get it. Damn, Lawler, you should have put him away. Now he's going to pull his straps down. You getting fucked up, son.
Man.
Damn.
He beat the hell out of Jeff.
Oh.
Jeff's got him in the buck, as Two Live Crew used to say, but wait a minute.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. Oh, man. Whoop, daddy. Is it there?
Yes, folks.
So I'm guessing they wouldn't let Lawler go over like with any kind of major like finish. It was just a roll up type thing.
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't do a Phantom title change.
Yeah.
Well, all right, there it is. What a way to end 1993, the way we started it. New unified champion, Jerry the King Lawler. How shocked were you guys to see the King come out on top here?
I was a little shocked because I didn't watch this ahead of time. I knew we were going to watch some of it, but man, that finish, even though they kind of went to the well with the pile drivers a little bit, but I absolutely loved when he just, I want one more pile driver and knock the hell out of Frank one more time. And the back and forth, it was real quick, and it seemed like it, went off pretty smooth as well. So I love it. Jeff doesn't, he wears underwear or something when he tans. We saw that.
Yeah. Get that white ass.
Those straps of his weren't made for pulling down. He leans over, flips his hair up. I thought he was going to put it in a ponytail. I was like, are you fixing to punch Jerry Lawler or suck his dick in the middle of the ring here? Like,
let me tell you something, Lawler.
Oh, you've had it now.
I'm so damn mad right now. I could just.
Oh, J-E-double-L, spin S-U-C-K. All right, let's take a quick podcast commercial break, and when we come back, we'll hear what the card was at the Mid-South Coliseum that showing a bunch of recent matches from TV was supposed to entice us to go see this card on December 27th. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Pro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puroresu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jarrett, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
So again, no real need to ask you any questions since this show did absolutely nothing to promote this card in particular. But here we are 2 days after Christmas in 1993, and folks apparently were sick of being in their house all weekend with their family because 1,300 people came down to the Mid-South Coliseum. Mm-hmm. When you hear this card, you're going to be surprised. This is what got them there. Opening match, Reggie B. Fine defeated Del Rios. Second match, Jeff Gaylord defeated the Vampire Warrior by disqualification.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Third match, Lauren Davenport pinned Sweet Georgia Brown with special referee Bert Prentice. And man, like we said last week, after seeing those two at ringside with Lawler and Reggie B, I cannot begin to imagine how awful that match had to be. I mean, there's been some bad women's matches in Memphis over the years, but that one had to probably be top. Just guessing. In the next match, Killer Kyle beat Ken Wayne. Now, it doesn't say Master of Terror. It doesn't say American Eagle. It says Ken Wayne. So I guess he's out of gimmick here. Killer Kyle, for those who don't know, was a former WCW job guy, Mark Kyle, who had gotten a job at Smoky Mountain. Cornette was pushing him over there. So he has made his way to Memphis here and gets a win over Ken Wayne. Next match, USWA champion Brian Christopher defeated Buddy Landel via disqualification. Now, we talked about recently, Buddy was USWA champion. He asked for a nightly guarantee. They told him no, so he quit the company. They had to swap the title and a phantom title change. I guess in the period of the 2 weeks he was gone, Buddy realized nobody else was looking to hire him, so he came back.
Wow.
I guess that's why we showed the match with Mike Anthony with the big, interaction between him and Brian at the end, despite the fact, we was seemingly pushing towards a single match with Eddie Gilbert, but we'll see about that here in a moment. Next match, the tag team champs, Far Too Wild, with their manager Bert Prentice, defeated PG-13 with Midget D and Lee Womack. Semi-main event, Eddie and Doug Gilbert beat Brian Christopher and Jerry Lawler by disqualification. And then in the main event, a big 2-ring battle royal. Everybody in the card on the card was in the match. Any guesses as to who won this big 2-ring battle royal 2 days after Christmas in 1993?
I'll say Jerry Lawler.
Jerry Lawler.
I was going to say, if BT guesses this one, I know he went and looked, because you wouldn't guess this. If I gave you 10 more tries, you wouldn't guess. Killer Kyle won the 2-ring battle royal.
Everybody else was ready to go home. That's what
he sounds like he sounds like he owns a hard lemonade, doesn't he?
Yeah, Killer Kyle's hard lemonade. Screw you, Killer Kyle. Anyway, he's our big winner. So there you have it. That was the card that drew a show headlined by a 2-ring battle royal, won by Killer Kyle. Drew 1,300 people, which is our biggest crowd we've had in quite some time here at the end of 1993. And so, yeah, we will eventually circle back around to 1994, but right now we're going back to 1991. But I thought it would be fun if we took some time and gave out some awards, if you will. And we're going to go around the table, and we've got some different categories. And so we're going to go in reverse order, guys, from what I sent them to you, because I think we need to build to the Wrestler of the Year. So the first one is the WTF moment, biggest WTF moment of the year. And we'll start with your pick, BT.
I had 2 or 3 things here. Vince McMahon being on their show, it was a WTF moment back then, and it just, to me, it looks so. I mean, we all know what happened with the Vince McMahon role, but I was just, what the fuck's going on?
Oh, I would have to say that how could it not be Thank God for Kids? Like, what the fuck are we doing right now? Like, I saw that and I remember, why? Like, I think we were doing a watch along, and I was like, what's happening right now? Like, are we really doing this? Like, they couldn't have picked a worse song. So I guess you have to know a little bit more about the ins and outs of it, you know, about what was going on at the time. As little as they may be. But yeah, I mean, that was like, wow, that's what are we doing here? What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been an odd choice, but considering his whole purpose for showing these videos was to kind of make a case for himself against the case that was being made against him. And this was like right the opposite. I mean, this would have been like if New Jack was trying to do a video campaign on TV of like, hey, man, I know that, you know, people are trying to say I'm a violent person, but let me show this highlight reel of me stabbing motherfuckers to, you know, show you what a good person I am. That's kind of what that was. It's weird.
Right.
Josh.
So this is kind of a fun one, or at least it was fun to watch back. And that is one that happened before the watch along process, but man, it's still impactful, dude. It's Coco Beware beats the shit out of Miss Texas and TD Steele. So
wow, yeah,
that was the deal where I forget what happened to lead to this, but the situation is TD Steele is the referee at the Mid-South Coliseum that night. And there was a mixed tag, and Miss Texas ends up outside. Coco goes out there. They get into a confrontation, and it's like we always wonder, is there hate from the back? Is she telling these people, beat the shit out of me, treat me like a man, not a woman? And I don't know what happened, but either way, Coco pushes her like he's a middle linebacker, and she just fucking ragdolls, boom, down. Here comes TD Steele. TD Steele's just like super fired up. He even jumps like up and down, pointing at Coco. You better not do that again. And it's almost like it was a fan in front of Coco. He for real punches him in the face. And then I keep correlating it to what you said, Gene. He Fred Astaire tap danced on that ass right on top of him. Boom, 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 boom. Just walking on him like Big Josh used to do the log roll. Just fucking all over him, stomping him. And it makes you question, like, him going that hard, did something happen, or is he just in that killer instinct mode, and he's trying to heel super hard. And buddy, it translated. I remember just like, holy shit.
Coco was bad about that though. He
became known for that.
Yeah, I mean, he
well,
did.
I mean, hell, not became it. He did it. He did it in the '80s. You know, there's several instances. You go back and that Patriot guy, not Del Wilkes, that he beat the shit out of, and he was just murdering people with a brain buster. So yeah, it's kind of his calling card. But
he kind of did it to me my last match.
Was that your last match?
Well, I hadn't worked in 5 years, and he did the hip drop on my back, like where he just kicked his feet out and sat down right on my lower back. And later on, I accidentally punched him right in the face. I was blind as a crack.
He was blind back then.
I was blind back then, punched him right in the face. He set up.
But now I see. Mine biggest WTF moment, 90-year-old spaceman Frank Hickey being brought out for an angle. I mean, I wanted to shoehorn that into something just because I wanted to mention it, and the WTF thing was the only thing that really just I thought it worked for. But I don't know, it kind of pales in comparison to some of the ones you guys made. Honorable mention, I had put the dog pen steel cage was my second runner up. Any others that you guys wrote that you didn't cover?
I had Savage walking out on TV because I wasn't watching anything in advance. So when I watched that, I couldn't believe he was at that time period that he was on Memphis Wrestling again. So that was a big moment for me.
Your WTF
moment was that Frank? I had the rope breaking on.
Yeah.
And then them continuing the show with 2 ropes.
That's a good one. Josh, did you have any others you wanted to throw out there?
I mean, other than just Vince McMahon, like BT said, popping up, that was mine. It was like, holy shit, this is different. But yeah, and maybe the Moondog shooting on the dog catcher on live TV. He had to fucking wrap him up and choke him out or something. And he punched him for real again. I love those type of situations.
Yeah, I wish he was still around. I would like to hear that guy tell that story.
He's dead?
Yes. There's one lone Moondog still left.
I actually wrote down an honorable mention category of the I can't believe they're still alive award. And at the top of the list, I wrote Melvin Penrod Jr. And then now I've just wrote, and now Frank Morrell.
And in parentheses, whom I didn't know was still alive.
I did not.
All right. Next category, this is going to be the longest episode ever. And this one should be a fun one. Least favorite promo of 1993. BT?
Oh, it's got to be Mike Anthony.
Okay.
Just horrible with that whole thing with the title belts and that and then y'all just made fun of him constantly, but he's horrible. He's good in the ring, got a good look for that time period, but man, just horrible on the microphone.
Yeah, I don't know how you let him get a microphone in his hand more than once. Once you realize that's what you got, let's just keep it away. But no, we didn't. We kept it going. Excuse me. Richard.
I went in a time machine and I went to the very first couple episodes.
Oh, wow.
And one of the worst interviews I can remember is them parading Sapphire out there to talk on the microphone. And I actually wrote down the Sapphire, that's a man promo. I mean, it was already like, hey, y'all remember Sapphire from being like 5 or 6 years ago in the WWE? Well, she's back. She needs a payday. You know, she's blew through all of her $1 Million Man money, and then she comes out there, and you can't really understand what she's saying, and she hits that's a man. So, yeah.
And even in 1993, only 3 years after she'd been on TV, I figure Richard was like, she's still alive?
Yes.
Josh.
I put the extremely awkward debut promo for the Marino brothers. Them guys,
that was horrible.
I remember watching back, and it was just like, holy shit, these guys have never worked in front of a camera before. It was like They had no clue where the hard camera was going to be. They kept just facing Dave. And you could tell like he was trying to turn him around just a little bit, but it was like, yeah, Dave, we're here. And all you see is the backs of their heads. And you've got the one vocal one, and he's horrible. He's like he's trying to sell you a tiller or some shit. And the other one was almost completely void of anything to say. It was like, yep, we're gonna get him. What do you say about that, Bill?
The original Jumpin' Jeff Farmer promo.
It was fucking horrible.
Well, I had to put the never-ending promo from Jeff Gaylord, the face turn promo from Jeff Gaylord, was my least. I mean, I don't know. It was my least favorite sitting through it. Now, we had so much fun with it, and it kind of became an iconic moment of the podcast, at least. That sounds kind of weird to say, and I may be stepping on somebody's favorite promo. I don't know. We'll find out here in a minute. But honorable mention, and I really went back and forth on whether I was going to pick the Gaylord promo or this one. Mike Sample's introduction of the Russian Brute.
Oh
yeah.
Where he had that whole backstory where like the president had sent him to Russia. He picked Mike Samples from Indiana to go to Russia. What the fuck? Any other honorable mentions we want to quickly mention before we move to the next category?
I would say Gaylord and agree with you, but there was so much fun with that I just couldn't pick it. I just couldn't.
If you're looking at it through 2025 eyes for entertainment value for a podcast, yes. If you look at it in 1993 eyes, as this was supposed to be a babyface turn promo that's supposed to get me fired up and behind this guy. No.
Yeah.
No. When I thought there was no way I could think Jeff Gaylord was a bigger goof than I already did, he took it to another level with this promo that was supposed to make me like him, but had the exact opposite effect. So,
yeah, I would say honorable mention anything with Lee Womack.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair. I got a feeling we might not have seen the worst of Lee Womack just yet. We may have to wait for 94 to see that. All right, so this is going to be a fun one, too. I'm really interested to see what some of these answers are. Your favorite promo of the year, BT?
It's got to be Brian Christopher. Any of the promos that he did, he would come out as a heel, saying goof, calling people. But one of my favorite promos is when he came out, the first promo he had as a babyface, and he was still healing, but he was a babyface. One of my favorite promos. And Brian was just he was all over the place, but still himself all the time, sticking out his tongue, doing the whole 9 yards. But yeah, Brian Christopher is my favorite promo guy for 1993.
Richard?
My favorite promo was Tommy Rich costing Jarrett money with having to go to Roto-Rooter because he flushed a full-size 8x10 down a toilet. Like, I don't know why that stuck out with me so much, but he's just like, see this picture? I'm not even going to crinkle it. I'm just going to set it on the water and flush, and now let you guys figure it out back here in Studio 5. And I just thought that was such a good interview. It was memorable. It was the one that stuck out when I thought about Memphis interviews from this year.
And finding out from Tommy when I asked him about it that was actually, because they made it sound like he was at his house, but turned out he was just in the studio somewhere in a bathroom and shot that. Like, if that would have overflowed the toilet and he would have had to run in on Jarrett with like water up to like right above his ankles.
Right. Yeah, I mean, his house ain't got commercial plumbing. That was commercial plumbing.
But there was a shower in there, so that was weird. But from what I hear, it was, that was for when the weatherman had to be there for hours covering storms and stuff. So that makes sense. Josh?
So, man, you called it, dude. I did look at my favorite promo through the lens of entertainment value and the recently. And the Jeff Gaylord never-ending promo listing his life accomplishments from birth to fucking present day at that point is some of the best shit that we have watched in terms of how fruitful is it. Man, we have made so many jokes, and I'm going to tell you, it sparked this weird interest in Jeff Gaylord. I know so much more than I used to about Jeff Gaylord just because of this promo. And it made me want to go back. And like you said, whether it's you believe he was a douche and he's an even bigger douche, or you're just more interested in him and you like the character. Either way, I know a lot more now than I did. So, it sparked this weird interest in just his whole life. And the way it ended was really bizarre. He needs a movie written about him.
Oh, yeah. I plan to do a deep dive podcast about Jeff Gaylord, at least for Patreon at some point, just because I want to fill in some gaps in his story. But I just don't have time right now. But we're going to get there. And it seems like a good moment right now. Get the Jeff Gaylord t-shirt over at the merch store. Check that out just in time for June. Good looking shirt there. You might want to wear one. So my favorite promo of the year, hands down, and this is not looking at it through. It was a great promo. This is strictly for entertainment value. The Mean Mike Miller threesome promo where he brought out Leslie Ballinger and Lauren Davenport on his arm. And, it was like The Godfather before The Godfather. Just absolutely. If you joined the show late, folks, go back to them first few episodes. The Mean Mike Miller promos coming out, hurling the chair at Lawler's head. Just some unintentionally fun stuff there that we kind of shit on it at the time. But looking back, months later when we were watching some of the stuff I had that song, I hope you had the time of your life. I just look back with such fond memories, man. Or you could plug in the song "Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone." One of the two.
I think you look back on those fondly because you know how you look back on a time period when you were first married and you were dirt poor and you was like, those are some good times. But when you were in them, you're like, we're dirt poor. This is horrible. Yeah. When we were in that Mike Miller period, I remember thinking, what the fuck have I gotten myself into?
This will be a long year, brother.
Yeah. We can look back fondly on it now and be like, yeah, that was some good times.
Honorable mentions for me on favorite promos. Eddie Gilbert's shoot promo after the fireball incident with the rock and roll fandom when he cut the promo and quit the promotion. Other honorable mention, all of the Miss Texas promos from the entire year. They was a lot of fun, y'all. I enjoyed them. Fat boy. I would say we could whip out one here in a little bit. I'll hit you when you least expect it, and we'll bust out a sound clip from Miss Texas. Then our next category is kind of an odd one, maybe disrespectful. I don't know. Some people don't like this word. To them, it's like the wrestling equivalent of the N-word or something. Least favorite jobber.
Mine's got to be Ken Raper, and it's just because of his name. I mean, how do you go out there and just keep that name week after week after week when they change people's name like crazy in Memphis wrestling? So, least favorite is Ken Raper. Is he alive? We could get him on the show.
I don't know. If he was, I'd love to talk to him. I'm sure at this point he'd love to talk to us.
Was your family rapers? Is that the reason why they named you that?
Well, BT, I come from a long line of rapers. Name-wise? Oh, well, both.
Granny Raper was the best raper that I
knew. Who is Granny Raper? No, that's what we called my grandpa, actually. Okay.
Guys, bad news. Memphis veteran Ken Raper dies. This was January 25th, 2022. Damn, he was 67.
Jeez.
67. What if Raper would have died at 69? That would have been... Sorry, Richard.
My least favorite jobber was one that sounded like they named him because he was going to run a fucking daycare. It was Mr. Clyde. I thought that was the stupidest name ever. And then when you see him, he just gets heat with you because of the way he looks. And, the Mr. Clyde thing, I was like, you can't come up with a better name than that. This is terrible. Also dead, though, by the way.
And then he did, and then you're like, still not better.
Still
really.
Not better.
Dressing better.
Yes.
Not better.
Yep.
Josh.
So I had to really dig around and think because, we've seen some doozies and you may call me out on this or you're like, this motherfucker wasn't in USWA in 1993, but I'm pretty sure we've synced this motherfucker on this show at least once this year. Chris Frazier. We've seen him earlier in the year, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
with those
definitely
horrible red tights, those yellow boots, no register, no facials. He's in there getting beat up like you do a pillow when you were a kid. When you're
he was the one
in
that botched the finish with Scott Taylor.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, and it's like wrestling a fucking like a pillow. You wouldn't know that you're hurting him because he's just flopping around, not selling anything. Like, and his dad was a wrestler. You figure, I know Plowboy's not like fucking Ricky Morton or anything on the cell meter, but good God, you figure he'd at least like try to learn him something. Look, man, this is what it's all about. You got to at least act like it. No, he just gets
Is he
beat
alive?
up.
Is Chris alive?
Chris Frazier, I think he is, but I can't swear to that. That's just me guessing. So mine is a more recent one, but I guess maybe it's just that it sticks out in my mind more. But the Enforcer, just because he looks like somebody's like, "Hey, we need a wrestler." And he took his walkie-talkie off his belt, left the back door, got in the ring, ripped his pants, rolled out of the ring, went right back to the back door, strapped his walkie-talkie back on, was back on duty as a security guard within moments. It's just, I don't know. It's like, dude, you're not even trying. Like, you just look like a mall cop. Honorable mention for me, I had written down, was Ken Raper for all the same reasons that PT had. Any others that you guys can think of?
There's been some doozies. Jerry Turman with the CBD store and the auto salvage parts thing in the same deal. He wasn't that great. Like, and he looked like after you wrestled him, you needed a shower, even if it was a simple 30-second boom, boom, we're done.
Yeah.
I feel like if Jerry Turman's still alive and sees this show, he's going to take he wasn't that great as like the highest compliment he's got about his career. He's like, I'll take it, man. Nicest thing about my wrestling. Can I quote you on that, Mr. Briley?
I feel like he's dead and a motor fell on him. I don't know why. That's why I think but yeah.
Yeah. If you're asking me if he's alive, in the words of Gorilla Monsoon, highly unlikely. So Jobber of the Year, BT.
I'll go with Tony Williams. I knew he was going to have a solid match. Very few matches where he didn't get anything. He had a really good match. I think we saw him twice against Brian Christopher. And, we saw him on TV as one of the American Eagles also. But, yeah, Tony's always been one of my favorite guys.
That's a good one. Richard?
I'd actually had Hard Times Jesus written down because I didn't know his name.
I couldn't either. I didn't know his favorite or least favorite because I literally could not come up with his name to save my life. So
yeah, he was my favorite that we had some of the most fun out of at the beginning. It was like for weeks I was thinking Hard Times Jesus was the funniest thing ever, So yeah, he was definitely my favorite.
Josh?
TD Steele, man. We saw him. I mean, he elevated from where he was in the beginning of the year, and not in a way that most wrestlers would look at elevating, but he made it to where, I'll show up if you want me to wrestle. I've got tights. If fucking Frank don't show up or Paul's got to finish some business in the shed, he can't come to Memphis, I'll put on a Levy Auto Parts shirt and I'll ref these son bitches. Like, he would do either. He made it to where you needed him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so in that sense, I looked at TD kind of like in a higher regard, in a sense, what I would look at like, even Jerry Turman or Chris Frazier or any of them like that. He was different. Then he came out with the hard hat, half-ass gimmick. Gimmick jobbers, dude. I love that shit.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Not many can say they were a jobber and a referee in the same year, so that's definitely stands out for sure. My pick, The Shadow, favorite jobber of all time. And I'm just picking that just to rib somebody who's listening right now who will be sending me a text as soon as he hears that. Honorable mention, jobber of the year, Tony Falk. Now you can argue and say technically he wasn't a jobber this year, but
yeah.
I don't know how you can't say Danny Davis.
That's what I was waiting for. Oh man, if
There
Meemaw
she
didn't show
is.
up to bury Danny Davis, I was going to just call this show a complete waste of time. So, woo, day has been saved. Tremendous. All right, next up, least favorite gimmick. This is going to be interesting. BT.
I'm gonna go with Homeboy. That was just god awful. Oh, just could not do that. New Jack and
Can't argue that
Homeboy. Homeboy's my least favorite.
Richard.
Melvin Penrod Jr.
I knew he was going to say that.
Every time he was on the screen, I was rooting for whoever was going to face him, whether it be an opponent or him just getting in the damn ring. Like it was a challenge for him to be in there. So, yeah, hated every minute of that. Couldn't be happier than when we found out he was not coming back.
Y'all had such a weird fat kid rivalry going on this year. It's a very interesting psychological evaluation going on there. Josh?
The War Machines.
I knew it.
Oh,
that was just, it left a horrible taste in my mouth. That's because I think it was just timing. I mean, it was god awful. Don't get me wrong, but it was timing. That was right after the dog catchers, and clearly you could see they were not invested in the dog catchers. They kept changing them up. You're the champions, but you could be anybody. Hey, bud, you're the champion. You're going to be the champion. We've dealt with that shit for over a month, it seemed. And then it's like they disappear, and then we get the War Machines, who's even worse version of the dog catchers in a sense of this is who I see as the gimmick. This is what I want it to be, but I'm going to throw these two just bland, not really shape of any size, just looks like a guy that works at a factory somewhere, took his shirt off, put on some tights. It wasn't a lot there, and they were trying to say this is the champion, or these are the champions, and they had Lee Womack, and that is not helping the case. That never adds to the soup. It always takes away. So yeah, it just, at that point, I was so done with that type of just throwing anybody and everybody into it.
That's fair. I felt like that was going to be your pick, but I didn't know if he was going to dig back further back to somebody that might have trumped him. But yeah, the War Machines. Good pick. My pick actually coincides with Richard's, even though I disagree with his pick 100%. Mine is Principal W. Bergstrom. I hated every minute that he was on the screen. As much as I enjoyed the Penrod character, we'll talk about it later in another category. I won't go there. So, honorable mention. This may surprise some people because as much as Doug Gilbert is a good buddy of mine now, I hated the King of Rock and Roll gimmick. It did nothing to me at all. I don't know why he did it, but yes, I mean, was so glad when he came back without that gimmick. And honorable mention to the Rock and Roll Phantom as well. Didn't like either one of the Rock and Roll gimmicks from this year. Any honorable mentions for you guys for least favorite gimmick?
I went with the War Machines also as my honorable.
I think you could also throw in the Merinos in there.
Yeah.
If that's a gimmick, then so be it. I don't even know if it qualifies. Just going here looking like a couple of dildos. I don't know if that really makes it for a gimmick. I'll take it. All right, so the opposite of that, what was your favorite gimmick, BT?
Melvin Penrod Jr. That's my favorite gimmick of the year. Absolutely loved it. I would have done so much more with it if I was booking him, but I did. I just loved the whole gimmick. And one of my favorite things is when Richard showed us that picture of him when he was a kid, and so we know why he hated Melvin so much.
It all came together.
But yeah, my favorite gimmick there.
Richard?
I was a big fan of Scotty the Body, Johnny Polo, and then especially after they changed his name and they couldn't figure out what they were going to call him. He'd show up every week showing off that big hog of his and that singlet. That was his finisher one day where he just hogged him right in the face off the second rope. You can't beat that. You know, when you're
yeah, you can beat it. I bet you can.
That's no two-handed Toni Adams.
When you're finishing it off a guy with your hog from the second rope, I know that's a weird sentence to say, but you can't. Yeah, I mean,
he just dropped the dong on him in there.
But I mean, like I said, I was a huge Scotty Flamingo fan back in the day when I was a kid. And I thought, to me, that really was different. You know what I mean? And especially in Memphis back in the day was his gimmick.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that one. Josh?
I loved the principal and the A student, C.W. Bergstrom and Melvin Penrod Jr. And dude, I think besides BT, I think you two, you're not really latching on to what was actually going on. Them guys had depth. Think about it.
Big time.
They were super committed to that gimmick. And C.W. Bergstrom would come out and he'd list all of this shit. Like he really tried to put the gimmick over, opposed to like, yep, I'm a War Machine. You know, or I'm just, you know, I'm a dog catcher. I won't ever say shit. Or I'm a rock and roll phantom. I won't say, you know, they actually invested thought and time, and like, no matter what, they didn't break character. And I loved Melvin Penrod's that unpredictable fucking, you know, I'm so, you know, scared. I'm the A student, and that they got that relationship. And then it's like he becomes a serial killer in the ring. I love that shit. It was great.
So I get what you're saying, and the way they executed. Kudos to Bergstrom and Penrod for the way they played the gimmick. Because yes, they were all in on it. I just didn't like. I mean, if you're going to have a principal, then yeah, I like the A student for that role, but I just didn't like the high school principal gimmick. Like I just thought it was boring to start with. But I mean, I guess you're from the like, hey, kids will relate to this. They hate their principal too, and they'll want to come see him get his ass whipped. And that was my biggest issue with the Penrod character was we never explained why he was this big nerd on commentary. I mean, in interviews, but then he turns into Big Van Vader in the ring. If we could have at least gave some like reason, like, oh, he snaps, he remembers when somebody took his freaking chocolate bar or whatever, I would have liked that better. But that it to me, it was just kind of like a hole in the plot there. Like, well, why does he turn into this big monster in the ring and just kills people? But over here, he's this big tubby nerd and he's, you know, all submissive to the principal. I think that, but maybe he just didn't hang around long enough for him to tell that part of the story. Maybe we just didn't get there because he quit. So, but anyway, I liked Penrod. My favorite gimmick, Little Midget D. I don't know, having a miniature member of PG-13 who dressed just like him and acted like Jamie, that was fun. I like that gimmick. For honorable mention, I did put down Melvin Penrod, and also put honorable mention favorite gimmick, Big Black Dog. And you know why I like the Big Black Dog?
He's big, he's black, and he is mean.
That says it all. Anyway, least favorite manager or valet. This one might get tough. Then again, maybe not. BT.
I hate to do this since you made me feel bad for imitating him and everything, but Paul Neighbors, when he was on the screen, I just wanted to fast forward. So
we wish you well, Paul.
Yeah, I hope you're getting better, Paul. Sorry about that.
Prayer Paul Neighbors. BT hopes you get better in health and at being a manager.
That'd be a hell of a comeback, wouldn't it?
Richard.
It's a more recent one, but I mean, as soon as I saw him show up, I hated him from the minute he started. That was Lee Womack. Like, I really could not despise that. Like we've said before, it just felt like somebody was doing their drug dealer a favor.
Oh yeah,
and I was over it as soon as I heard him talk the first time.
But to be clear, you're not saying you hated him as in he's good at getting heat. You hated him because he's not good.
Yes, not good at all. Yes.
Josh.
Yeah, I'm echoing that. Lee Womack, absolute garbage. And his promo reminded me of like a guy that thinks that you've shorted him change at the gas station and he's getting into it with the clerk. You know, it was that type of confrontational promo. It wasn't like he studied the business and he was trying to really build something and trying to get the right type of heat. He was just going out there being annoying, like a real life annoying ass person.
Yeah, I'd co-sign all that. Although remembering back to how long this guy hung around in the early stages and how little I liked his promos, my least favorite manager of the year, Mike Samples. Honorable mention, Ronnie Lots. That freaking guy, even though he wasn't on my TV much, what little bit he was, did not enjoy it. The whole 900 miles and I ain't seen nothing.
Yes.
I forgot all about him.
Yeah.
Glad he didn't hang around very long. I don't know. He made a mark. I mean, which I guess maybe says something good for him. But to me, it's just like, once that promo hit and then he was gone a week later, I was like, thank God. I did not want to hear him or see those freaking untouchable guys. So this one's interesting. This may end up being a clean sweep. I don't know. But favorite manager or valet of the year?
Got to be Burt Prentice. Yeah, I got to vote. Always entertaining when he's on the screen, and I was in his book. So Burt Prentice.
Richard?
I actually went the other way. As much crap as I gave this person all year, you can't deny that they got heat every time they were on, and that was Miss Simpson. She was the main focal point of a lot of feuds, and she became the main heel manager for every big heel that was there. Even when, as we were looking, when they brought in, fucking my head's not working right. When they brought in, who was the drunk aunt we just watched? It's just
Buddy Landel.
Buddy Landel. I couldn't think of the name. Even when they brought in Buddy Landel.
Never in my life thought Buddy Landel would be described as a drunk aunt.
Yeah.
One of those shirts.
She was put right with him. So, I mean, she was just a A1 manager there for a little while.
You take out the garbage, baby. Oh God!
All right, Josh, your pick.
This is probably not surprising to anybody, but Burt Prentice. He's the man in Memphis, and I've said this plenty of times, and I really mean this. Like, Jimmy Hart was good in a way where he'd do songs and promo videos and stuff, but Burt Prentice could make you hate him so much, and I truly believed he was that person that he was portraying as a kid, and I loved it. It wasn't like I did hate him, but I was drawn to him like a moth to a flame because he was so good. Like, so
Yeah, I get it.
So
Burning
good
flame.
at anything you wanted him to do. Like, you talking about depth with the other characters, but Burt could do any promo. The Vampire Warrior showed serious Burt. Like, we didn't get a lot of that type of Burt Prentice, but that was great for that moment, and all types of other stuff going on. But yeah, one of the best.
That promo was underrated in the favorite promo category, where it was like a scene from a high school play where you got Burt in the foreground, spot lit, and then part of the Vampire Warrior behind him in the shadows. I expect him to start miming whatever Burt was saying in front of him. But no real surprise on mine. I had to say Burt. Honorable mention was Toni Adams for all the reasons you guys just named, and also because Burt was a hated heel throughout the year, and then he brought it around, come back at the end of the year, and was a believable babyface, and had the whole studio. These people who hated his guts the entire year were up dancing and having a big old time with Burt as Bertha, and then with him in the freaking purple pimp suit a week later with Far Too Wild. So it showed Burt's range and showed how talented he was, and of course you can't deny that Toni Adams was a huge factor in everything that went on in the USWA for at least 7-8 months out of the year. So wasn't surprising, but hey, sometimes you can't make a pick just for the sake of being different. It is what it is. And I think that was one category where there wasn't much arguing it. So here we go. Least favorite feud.
Got to be the Harris brothers against the Moondogs. God, I got sick of that. Titles changed every 5 minutes. Just god awful. So
fair, Richard.
I hated the Lawler and Mean Mike Miller stuff at the beginning of the year. I think I brought it up earlier. It was like, we had some fun moments in there, but I likened it to when I was poor and young. You know, you can look back on it fondly now because we're out of those dark days. But I remember back then going, I'd rather watch Lawler with anybody else, just anybody. And they milked it for a couple weeks, you know, so it was not my favorite.
That's fair. Josh?
So I got one that lasted longer than the one you're talking about, Richard. Jeff Jarrett versus Brian Christopher. That shit I guess it was the beginning of the year where we went through this gauntlet of hair matches. There's hair versus Jeff's title or vice versa. Somebody's hair's up. And Brian went through his lackey list. He went through Mr. Clyde, Zeke Rivers, I think was his name. And I believe somebody else got their hair cut at one point. It was like 3 people.
Yeah.
And then it went to Jeff putting his hair up because he got beat for the title. And by week 6, I am ready to just quit the show. I'm like, God damn, I can't take this. This is getting old. And finally, they broke it off somehow, but it was just god awful.
I can't remember the other manager that got his head shaved earlier on, but you're right. There was another manager, but Tony Falk got his head shaved in that deal later in the feud.
Okay.
And it's crazy to say that Jeff Jarrett and Brian Christopher are in the least favorite feud because I think we all like both of those guys a lot. But just like you said, the repetition of it, and then just the hair match after hair match after hair match, where it's all the flunkies getting their heads shaved and screwy finishes. Yeah, it wore thin pretty quick. Although for me, least favorite feud, we already kind of touched on this, but I got to mention it as far as the feud goes, and I think this is part of the reason I hated the character. Jeff Gaylord versus Principal C.W. Bergstrom.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. Woo.
Did not like that at all, and I think that's really what made me really not like the principal character. You like to give students 60 licks, and they're only supposed to get 6. Don't we hate that, kids? Like, really, Jeff Gaylord is gonna? I mean, I know he's got the mentality of a child, but come
right?
On, honorable mention: the Mike Samples versus Paul Neighbors feud, and then the Moondogs versus Dog Catchers feuds were honorable mentions for me. Any other feuds you want to mention before we move on?
Yeah, just I got so sick of Dog Catchers versus the Moondogs, and then after the Moondogs disappeared, the Dog Catchers versus whoever trying to chase the titles again.
If it went on too long as it was, but if Moondogs and Dog Catchers would have went on as long as Moondogs and Harris Brothers, like BT mentioned, I think they would have completely killed the town. I mean, if you go back and look online at the title history and you see how many times the titles literally switched hands between the Moondogs and the Harris Brothers in '93, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Yeah. All right, so now the opposite end of that spectrum. What was your favorite feud of the year, BT?
My favorite, and it didn't last long, but I liked Tommy Rich against Jeff Jarrett. Always a huge, big Tommy Rich fan. Fun to see him in there against Double J, so I really liked that.
Mine was, even though it went a little long, but it was probably the main feud of the year was Brian Christopher and Chris Adams. And that whole debacle of like Toni Adams and Miss Simpson or what her name is, it was still something that they were fighting over. And you could extend it by not having Chris there every week. They really played that as well as they could. It was actually ended up being some really good matches. And that was probably my favorite because it was the most noticeable one.
Josh?
USWA versus WWF. That was good stuff. I mean, it wasn't just Lawler versus, your random WWF guy, though it seemed that way at the beginning, but it ended up, Jeff getting in on the mix, and then even Brian Christopher. This feud, I'm pretty sure if they didn't have this feud, then Brian would have had less of a chance of, coming to the good side. I felt like that this feud was because Lawler even acknowledged, like, I don't really like this guy, but we need him on our team because he's a good wrestler, you know. And I remember how magical that was. And just like I said before, seeing who was going to be there next week, you never knew. And a lot of times it paid off. Good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agreed with Richard. I wrote down Brian Christopher versus Chris Adams just because I thought it really helped establish Brian feuding with somebody who was completely from outside the territory. It wasn't a Jarrett. It wasn't a Lawler. And, it played on the fact that, Brian was running around with Chris Adams' ex-wife, which everybody knew. And all of a sudden the ex-husband shows up in the studio unannounced. And I thought it was pretty well executed, even though Chris Adams may not at that point have been the most, best baby face as far as, just coming out and having like fiery promos and stuff like you're used to in Memphis. However, I feel like fans in Memphis could relate to that. He's banging his wife. Hell yeah, whoop his ass. Like they connected to that on a lot deeper level than they do most wrestling feuds. So I thought that was really good for the business as well. Honorable mention, the one BT mentioned, Jeff Jarrett versus Tommy Rich. I loved that feud. There were such good promos came out of that. Those brawls in the studio. And another honorable mention one, it was short-lived, but it was fun to see the Gilberts feud with each other. And to see Eddie as a baby face and everything, that was fun, but it didn't go long. But that was by design. They knew Doug was going to Japan, so it wasn't supposed to last long. But all right, good stuff. Now this,
I got one. Eddie Marlin in a 1993 Ford F-150. That was my favorite. That was one of my favorite feuds of the year.
I actually put down Jarrett and Christopher. I enjoyed that at the front of the year. So that was one of the things that I didn't have a problem with any of that. It was fun for me. So
that's fair. Like I say, that's the fun thing about the show. Everybody's got different opinions and views things differently. Josh, was there any besides the USWA versus WWF you wanted to mention, an honorable mention, if you will?
I mean, I'm struggling to think of one that's, not attached to that, because I love the Lawler versus Savage. How many times this year? 3, maybe. Yeah. But I mean, I loved the PG-13 versus American Eagles feud. I mean, I liked, that lasted longer than a week or two, and got the midgets involved. That was good stuff, and that spawned all of Jamie's Elephant Boy comments and stuff about the little eagle and stuff. It was good stuff coming out of that, promo wise.
I agree. I put this category, and then when I went to try to figure out my answer for it, like I couldn't really remember who all was in what. Does anybody have a definitive least favorite stable? Do we want to skip this category?
I put just anything Mike Samples was involved in. Is what I wrote.
That's fair.
So.
I did, yeah. I was like this close to texting the group text and asked like,
too,
what
yeah.
Does anybody have any thoughts on the stable? And the only thing that I could think of that was a half-ass stable that I just did not enjoy, and I should have, but I didn't because of the it should have been worse promo really for me because it took a lot of steam out of it. But it was the Lawler, Jarrett, and the Moondogs War Games stable, I guess, because they kind of joined teams and came out there in fatigues and stuff. And God, that was horrible seeing the Moondogs like that, because before they're vicious, they're mean, they're uncontrollable. And now they're dressed up looking like they're off of MASH.
Yeah, I was say they look like they should be on Hogan's Heroes or something, like just silly characters out there with army helmets on, looking like a. Anyway, yeah, I couldn't really nail down a least favorite stable. Favorite stable? Did anybody have a favorite? I know
I put when Christopher Flamingo was with the nannies when they had two nannies. That's what I put as my favorite.
I had anything? Mike Sample's First Family.
Yeah, that was kind of where I went.
I did enjoy Mike on the mic, and I liked, the whole photo shoot, like as the studio show was starting and they were interrupting. And, I remember seeing that or at least some of those pictures in, I guess, Pro Wrestling Illustrated or one of those Inside Wrestling, one of those magazines at the time. I thought it was cool. And I liked what he was trying to do. You know, it was the big heels at the time. And yeah, I mean, I like that whole deal.
All right, we're going to move on to least favorite tag teams. BT.
I hate to say this, but it's the Moondogs. I just did not enjoy anything they did this year. Maybe the first couple of times they were on TV, but after that, it just and I don't remember this. I think maybe I didn't watch it, but I think maybe the Moondog gimmick it just lasted way too long. I mean, it just didn't do anything for me, especially when they turned baby faces and they ran away. I mean, we would never have the Moondogs run away.
Yeah.
And I just can't sit and watch them just kill them jobbers. So,
Richard?
At least
I would, since he covered that one, I'll say my other one, which was the Harlem Knights.
Oh, I wondered if they were going to jump on here or not. No one said their names yet.
Yeah, that was one of those that, you know, it's like, if they're both on a show, I'm going to skip that 30 minutes of segments because it was just terrible, just awful. I mean, nothing against what Mabel and Mo became, but to see them here in their early days when they were green and they were just hurting people, like I'm good. You know, it wasn't entertaining for me.
Josh?
I want to say the Dog Catchers and the War Machines, but that would be not acknowledging my true hate, you know, for this whole deal. It's the Harris twins.
There it is.
Those fucking guys, they added nothing. In my opinion, they added nothing. They were just, you know, like I said, Bruiser Brody and some idiot jerked off in a cup and there they molded. It was, but they got the worst part of Bruiser Brody, where they thought they were Brody, but in reality they weren't. You know, and I think it's because, you know, whenever I would see them, that's who I would think of instinctively was Bruiser Brody, and I was just like, they don't really have good promos. They just go out there and kind of kick punch. They're not they're not Billy Robinson. You know, and I guess it's just, you know, you hear about. Oh, definitely.
Okay. Right.
You hear about all the bad stuff about them too, you know, like from their personal life and stuff.
Yeah,
and I
tattoo.
Man, you roll all that into a ball, and I want to hit that motherfucker out of whatever stadium I'm in. Get you away from me.
You think that's how babies are made?
We'll talk about that on the Patreon there, Josh.
Yeah. You know, on paper, the Moondogs versus the Harris twins could be interesting. And then once you see it once and you realize like, oh no, this isn't interesting at all. And then to think that they put that out in front of people like 16, 18 weeks in a row is just crazy. My least favorite tag team, the Marinos. If we're going for the year, just brought nothing to the table. Honorable mention: New Jack and Homeboy, and the Dog Catchers. That's my list. All right, tag team of the year. I got a feeling I know who this is going to be for some people, but we may get some surprises. BT,
got to be PG-13. Just love the gimmick. Always big fan of them, and it was fun to watch their debut. Fun to watch them. I don't know. They didn't get fired. They just wasn't getting booked because they had car trouble and then coming back. They were baby faces for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at the most. But fun stuff, especially with Midget D. Everybody likes a Midget D. So there you go. PG-13 tag team of the year.
Richard.
That's what I had. PG-13. We talked about them on here all the time as being one of the best parts of the show. And we always wondered why they didn't lean into them more around this time. So yeah, PG-13.
Josh.
PG-13. Love it, man. Like you're talking about, we got to see them from when they first sent those promo videos and the rap videos and all that. They come in and you see where they're first matching and, you know, just slowly working up. And by the end of this year, they're on the main event more than once, and they are the top heel tag team. That's where we thought they should be. not long after they arrived. It's just misuse or whatever. But yeah, I am so happy the way that we're closing out the year with these guys on top.
Well, no surprise here. Clean sweep. My pick was PG-13 as well for all the reasons you guys just said. Now, what may be a surprise, my honorable mention, and this is like one of those guilty pleasure things because I was always one. I just found it amusing. Their promos, I laughed at them, and I don't know. If I don't think about the fact that people are in there getting nearly murdered, I enjoy the Harlem Nights. And for no other reason, just how much you guys didn't enjoy the Harlem Nights. So I clip their shit every week just to amuse myself. But yeah, that was my only honorable mention team was the Harlem Nights. But yeah, clear-cut winners, PG-13.
Mine would honorable mention that to be, I wanted to say American Nightmares. The American Nightmares, because I was always a big, huge fan of both those guys. And as a tag team, it was always fun no matter what. Do not say anything. He liked girls, not guys. Good. That was my only honorable one. That was the American Eagles.
No honorable mention of the Masters of Terror?
No.
From anybody? Damn it.
I'm going to say this, and I liked the tag team. It was just the attire that was the problem this whole time. Well done.
I love the gimmick. Yeah.
What was their names?
Timothy Well and Stephen Dunn was their WWF name, but in here it was Rex King and Steve Dahl, Simply Divine.
Simply Divine. There we go. I love the promos, everything about them, but those fucking tights with the G-strings, that was so just cringe.
That was hot, honey.
Super cringe. And
I was worried they weren't going to come up. I put them as
they come up.
The promo for this week's show. I put an animated version of them on there. I'm like, they're not even getting mentioned now.
Yeah, but I wish that they would have wore something else, but everything else about them, that good shit. I'm not surprised they went to WWE. They both of them good stuff.
My honorable mention was Eddie Marlin in the 1994 F-150, the one that replaced the 90. They made a better team than the 93 F-150. So.
Also want to make an honorable mention, even though I think at this point they really only tagged one time. Coco Beware and Reggie Be Fine is a fun tag team. All right, so least favorite wrestler of the year, BT.
Even though we made fun of him and had a good time with him, he just was so clumsy. And every time we watched a match with him, I thought we was going to see somebody. He'd kill somebody in the ring. It had to be Jeff Gaylord. I just could not watch it. It was just like, oh my God. What did he do? Oh God. Did he really do that? He killed him. So yeah, just didn't get it after all those years.
Richard?
For whatever reason, this guy was once a number one fucking contender for the heavyweight title. And I still don't know how that happened, but that would be Mario. Like, how the hell? And then you never saw him again, which was great by me. But yeah, what in the world were we doing? I do have some honorable mentions, but Mario is my least favorite wrestler from 1993.
Josh?
I wish I would have thought of Mario, but this guy is fucking rotten as well. Colin Scott, however you want to say it. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Colin is what I like to refer to him because he was the shits. I'm talking about fucking rotten. Tony Falk is a great wrestler. He can make anybody, he's that I think it, he can go in there and have a good match, but they wouldn't even show most of this shit on TV. Hardly any clips. And the one match or two matches, I can't remember how many Colin had on TV. It was just, this guy is not ready. And I think like Jeff Gaylord would look like fucking Harley Race compared to this son of a bitch. Like, he was bad.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I'll co-sign every one of those that you guys just said, and they were all people who crossed my mind. For me, the one I picked for least favorite wrestler was he wasn't good, and to me, like Gaylord, at least he brought an entertainment value to things to where I didn't just completely cringe when he come on screen. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna have something fun to talk about. But the most vanilla, just God damn it, get him off screen to me was this Rex Hargrove guy. I was just completely indifferent to this dude. He wasn't good, but then he wasn't bad enough in an entertaining way to be fun to talk about. He was just there. Honorable mention, Mark Freer, a.k.a. Homeboy. And here's one I bet you everybody completely forgot about, the natural Bo Alexander.
Is it sad that I saw his name in the results and I couldn't even remember? I was like, Bo Alexander, who the fuck is that?
No reason you would remember him. I mean, he was more vanilla than Rex Hargrove. And I knew if I picked him, like, people would just be like, I don't even remember that guy. I knew people would remember Rex Hargrove because he was recent. So that's how I went with him. But any honorable mentions you guys want to mention?
Yeah, I had the Russian Brute down and also had Melvin Penrod Jr.
God damn it.
I had that down as well. And of course, Dan Davis was just, every time it come on, I just had to go take a shit. Because that's what he was going to do. He was going to take a shit in that ring. So I'm going to go do the same thing. So yeah, that would be my honorable mentions there.
Oh, Lord.
Take me to the Arctic sun down under. Whoa. Take me where that Arctic sun's gonna treat me so right, so right.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/wrestlepod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
All right. Well, here it is, the main event, the big one. I'm thinking that we may see some same answers here, but I don't know, man. I've gotten some surprises today, and that's what I was hoping for. So here we go. Wrestler of the Year. Who was your favorite Wrestler of the Year? BT.
One of my favorite feuds, one of my favorite promos. The man pinned Shawn Michaels, Doink the Clown, and Coco Beware all in one night. Brian Christopher was Wrestler of the Year in 1993 for me. If he was on the screen, I was watching it, matches or interviews. No one else.
Richard?
I have the 1993 F1. No, I'm just joking. No, I have Brian Christopher. Obviously, he was. This was the year he was starting to come into his own. I didn't even know who he was when I was in second grade, and then when we got cable, like I said, 93, I learned really fast who he was, and he was a staple in Memphis. He was there every week. He was wrestling. He was putting on good matches, and they eventually flipped him to babyface, and it was just seamless, So, but yeah, you couldn't deny that Brian was pretty much the big part of every show in 1993.
Josh?
Brian Christopher. Dude, we talked about seeing PG-13 come from down here to rise up here, but like Brian was always he was already one of the main bad guys or the heels or whatever you want to call it, but there was just something missing. I don't know how to describe it, but there was something missing. Like, this is the year he becomes known as Too Sexy, and he adds that to his character. And from what I remember, he becomes a little bit more nasty. each week. It seemed, and we even noticed the change to where if something with Miss Simpson like directly was impacting him, he went out that one week and Coco bewared that dude. He viciously beat that man's ass. And it was because Miss Simpson had him so just tangled up in his head. And promos, he was killing. He was better at the end of the year than he was at the beginning. And it just, Brian proved that he's good like Lawler, but in different ways, but it's still, you can tell he's got the blood in him.
All right, so I wish that I could give a different answer. I hate, we had a clean sweep for Tag Team of the Year, but I'm sorry. If you're being realistic, there's no way for anybody to say anything besides Brian Christopher for Wrestler of the Year for 93. This was, he had a great year in 92, but to me, this is his real breakout year where he comes along. He establishes that he can be a top babyface as well as a top heel. And kind of like, as BT said, he was pretty much always the most compelling part of every show he was on. At the worst lows of these shows where it's just like, God, damn it, how are we going to get through this week's episode? You knew when Brian come out, as Jim Ross would say, business was going to pick up and there was going to be something fun to hear and see. And so, there's just nobody. I mean, I started just to have fun. So and of course, Wrestler of the Year, Miss Texas, but
Bubba Johnson.
Because we know Miss Texas was a man, so she qualifies for. I was wondering if the whole Bubba Johnson thing was going to get a mention in any of the least favorite or even favorite, any of that stuff. Because boy, that sure went on an uncomfortably long time. Where it's like, all right, it was funny the first time you said it, but when we beat that dead horse for weeks on end, it was, and then starts trying to make, because that was the whole premise of having Sapphire out there.
Yeah.
That was Bubba Johnson's wife. I'm like, that's the premise we used to bring Sapphire from the WWF on the TV rather than just tie all that together. We bring, Bert brings her out. Of course, he's, she swerves him immediately, but Jesus, what a odd way to bring her in. But anyway, that went on for a whole different tangent. But yes, Wrestler of the Year, Brian Christopher. So, I guess to maybe steal something from the authority on professional wrestling, at least in some people's minds, old Dave Meltzer. If we have to go around the table here and say a thumbs up or a thumbs down for 1993 as a whole, from beginning to end, after watching every single episode that aired this year, would you say thumbs up or thumbs down for USWA 93 BT?
I'd say thumbs up. I had a good time with it, and also the podcast helped too. So, thumbs up.
You gotta show your thumb, dude. You can't just say.
Oh,
there it is. Your thumb's not very big. Is that? You know what they say?
Oh, sorry,
Richard.
Can I give a thumbs in the middle? Like that? Can I do that?
You got to be that fucking guy. Okay.
Well, I mean, I want to give it a thumbs down, to be honest with you. But
do what you feel, man.
Because there was so much of that stuff I think we glorify because we were young when it came on, that you watch it back and there was some shows that were just rough to get through. Now there was good moments. Don't get me wrong. Like we've talked about them this show, but there was just some things that, especially if you're looking at it from a guy that used to sit in the back when they would book this stuff in a later version, and you would go, oh, they're just throwing like a dart at the wall. Like there's no thought process of what they're going to do week to week on if your name's not Jarrett or Lawler. It's like, well, who's here today? All right, they're tag team champions. It's just that inconsistent booking for me that just throws everything off. And it's just like, well, we'll just throw whatever at them and they'll like it because it's on TV here. Was there some good times? Yes. But was there some dark stuff that was just, very much so. I would say more of like a 3/4 of the way down. I won't give it a full turn, but yeah, that's my thought.
Fair enough. Josh.
Oh, tough guy. I love that I got to relive this all over again. And there's a few weeks, or probably a lot of this shit that I just didn't watch at the time, or I went back and, I watched it on tape or whatever later at another date or whatever. But for the most part, I got to relive it week by week. and sure, there's low stuff going on, but like I said earlier, the highs that we did live, I mean, it's good stuff. And like I said, compare it to the other shit going on in wrestling in 1993. The high points here are some of the highest in the business if you really go back and just look and think about it. Like, we got to see Brian, mold into what he was going to be in the future. PG-13, all of their shit was good. Midget D, hilarious, and all of their interactions. WWF invading, and then you got just a lot of difference. You never know who was going to be main eventing, and yeah, there was an inconsistencies, but even as the year went on, TV matches started to ramp up, and like we said, it seemed like it was a house show match comparable to just a TV squash match. So I feel like as the year went on, the better this shit got.
I mean, if you're taking it from the standpoint of overall, I mean, you're not saying week to week to week, but overall, this is essentially an independent wrestling promotion for the most part that brought us the heel turn of Vince fucking McMahon, Randy Macho Man Savage, Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen Hart, The Undertaker, all these huge stars on our fucking TV in the Mid-South Coliseum. And when you compare what actually went on in the WWF and WCW in 93, and if I had to just pick one to review, I mean, I think somebody said it before we started recording or maybe after we were recording, but said something. I think it was Josh that said about like ECW or things. If you had sit me down and said, Gene, you got to review every episode for an entire year of a promotion in 1993, I would still pick USWA because fuck if I want to watch every Monday Night Raw or goddamn WCW Saturday Night or even 1993 ECW was fucking trash. Still is. I'll take it all day long. Thumbs the fuck up for me. Like, yeah, you can nitpick silly shit like, oh, the goddamn log catchers and shit. Well, yeah, fuck that. But I mean, overall, if we're saying the big picture, overall, yeah, there was some really good shit. And with everything, TV shows, wrestling, whatever, there's going to be some shit in a year's worth of stuff. That's just the way it is. But I defy you. Go watch the whole goddamn year of 1993 WWF and come back and tell me, thumb up your ass on most of that shit. I mean, so, it is what it is. But overall, I liked it. The bad stuff, a lot of it made it interesting, but there was some stuff that were just like, all right, we could have did without that altogether. And I think this would have been a very different show had we done the watch along all the way through. I don't know. It would have it might have changed our perspectives on some things if we had to sit through it and talk about it as it was happening. So now we move on to 1991. Now I'm going to warn you folks as you're listening to this and watching this, the footage quality of 91 is all over the place. So if we're doing watch-alongs and you watch this with us, there's going to be some of the footage is going to be hard to watch. There's going to be maybe a couple of weeks, multiple weeks where we just flat out don't have the episode that week. We're just going to have to skip past it. It is what it is. We'll at the beginning of that episode, we'll go over the previous week's Coliseum results or something. But we're going to cover 91 to the best of our abilities with what is out there. And so I feel like 91 is going to be a lot like 93. There's going to be some good. There's going to be some bad. There's going to be some ugly. But there's not going to be WWF guys coming in. They're not going to have that aspect of it. So we shall see. I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited about 92 whenever we get there. There's a lot of fun stuff in 92, but we got to get through 91 first. And, I look at this kind of like Doug Stanhope used to say before his stand-up shows, he said, I look at this like, taking you in, like we're taking you into battle. Some of you aren't going to be here at the end, and if we make our way all the way through USWA 91, 92, 94, 95, 96, we'll see who's still standing at the end. I don't know. I see one guy smiling thinking, not a chance, motherfucker.
Is it the only guy that didn't like this 1993? Am I going to get disqualified? That would be apt, wouldn't it?
I mean, you can stick around and hate every bit of it. That's your right, But no, I mean, I want you to be honest. I don't want you to be like, yeah, man, it was great if you didn't like it.
No, I mean, like I said, there was some good things on it. I'm not going to say I hated every minute of it, But yeah, like I think we griped enough about what was wrong with the shows, and the inconsistencies for me. If you're telling me a story, I want it to be consistent and I want it to have a pattern. And some of the patterns that they had was disqualification, and you could see it coming, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, again. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, did I hate everything? No, there was a lot of bright spots. So yeah.
And I think there's something else to consider when you're going back, and now we're about to dip back 2 years further back than this, was knowing a lot of these older guys and knowing what their mindset was then, and some of them even now. A lot of them just like, oh, this is wrestling. People don't pay that close of attention. And back then, you know, especially like in 91, like, yeah, there were people that recorded it and stuff like that. But basically, you watched it, and you may tape it. You might even watch it a second time. But you couldn't go on scour the internet and read results and, you know, have all this insight and everything. So people didn't really like meticulously inspect everything, and people missed some episodes. And like, I don't think people put it as much under a microscope back then as they do now to really pick apart a lot of the inconsistencies. Some of them are glaring week to week. There were ones where it's like, what the fuck? This doesn't even match up to what happened last week. But then there's things that like, all right, well, that happened in March, and now here in, you know, September, this makes no sense. Like, well, in their mind, I can already tell you, and you guys have been around this enough to know in the back, they think shit that happened 4 weeks ago. They're like, oh, they're wrestling. I mean, I've had promoters tell me that. Like, somebody would tell me something, hey, we're going to do this. I'm like, we can't do that. We just did that. You know, we were here 2 months ago. They don't remember that shit. They're wrestling fans. Like, I showed up at shows where I was a heel the month before, and they wanted me to go out and be a babyface. I was like, I was a heel last month. They're like, they don't pay attention. I'm like, if you think people don't pay any more attention than that, then why are you even doing this?
And I think what bothers me about that is these are the same people when I was getting into wrestling, and you would do something slightly wrong, and they're like, I don't make any sense. And it's like, how can you be so strict on one thing, but then show the one night I remember I was like, what the fuck are we doing? I was wrestling in a match with, honestly, it was Randy Hells was in it. Bill Dundee was in it. It was in Ripley. And somehow Randy wasn't even in the match, but somehow he pinned a guy that also wasn't in the match to win the match. And that was Bill and Randy's call. And I'm like, neither of these guys are in the match, but somehow one's going to take the pinfall from the other one and win this tag team match that we're in. Like, it's just Memphis. You know, that's all you can say.
But it's just wrestling too, because I remember paying for a front row ticket, sitting in the front row at WCW Uncensored 95 in Tupelo, Mississippi, thinking, holy shit, who is going to win between Hulk Hogan and Vader in a strap match? Because at that point, I was smart enough about wrestling now, like, I don't think either one of these guys is going to let the other one win. I wonder what's going to happen. Well, guess who Hulk Hogan beat? Ric Flair, who technically didn't even work for the company. He come out of the crowd dressed like a woman, and he lost the match. And they rang the bell, and the goddamn Renegade was out there, and we're going to our car, and me and Brad's here, and people go, I can't believe the Ultimate Warrior was here. And I'm like, he stopped and stood right in front of us, and I was the same height to this guy. Like, that was not the Ultimate Warrior, dude.
Neither one of them are still alive, by the way.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Death count on the USWA podcast is astronomical.
It really is who's still alive, not who's still dead. I mean, still dead. Yeah, still dead.
They're all dead.
Still and
dig
dead.
up Andre the Giant. I'll dig him up and bring him.
All right, so we got to wrap this one up. But like I said, join us for 91. But before we get there, next week, I'm going to be doing an interview. This is kind of ironic considering how much they've gotten slammed. I hope he doesn't listen to podcasts, considering he doesn't have a computer. I'm going to have to interview him over the phone. I don't think he's seen it. Next week, my special guest is going to be Moondog Splat. And we're going to be talking all about his career and especially his time as a Moondog in the USWA in 1993. I'll be doing that one solo, I believe. I don't think I want to have any of these guys chime in on that one. And then we're going to, I'm not sure about the following week, but it's going to be a couple of weeks before 1991 starts, put it like that. We're going to have an interview with Splat. And here in the next 3 weeks, there will be a 1990 review show where me and at least one, if not two, of the other people you see on your screen, if you're watching it, will probably join me for that. And we're just going to do an overall broad recap of 1990 to kind of set the table for us to start 91, because I feel like we need some kind of context instead of just jumping on here and being like, we're in it, like we need to kind of know how we got there. So it's not going to be a lot of, we're not going to watch anything. It's just going to be, we might have a couple of clips and some results and just kind of, again, set the table like, all right, here's how we got to 1991, and bam, we'll be off to the races, and it'll be more of what you saw in 93. But we got to plug some stuff for you out here, right?
Oh, yeah.
BT, what is going on over at STSPod?
Every day we do the Shiz Dip Minute. We just got through with episode 956, which was episode 225 of Rolling Into Memphis this coming week. Or if you're listening to it now, this week, we got WTF with my new co-host with the most, the wrestling's know-it-all, Gene Jackson, in his second show. I'm excited. We got some funny stuff to talk about. And then later on in the week, one of my other new co-hosts, his name is Steve, will be doing the Countdown show, which is, it used to be Cool Kids, but they're just not cool anymore, so we can't call it the Cool Kids Countdown. So the Countdown show and WTF coming this week.
It's kind of like that old Hank Williams Jr. song, all my rowdy friends have settled down. All my cool kids friends aren't cool or kids anymore.
They lost their minds.
Weird way to say it. Guys, P3 Radio. What's happening over on P3 Radio?
Well, this week we talked about my first heckling experience from this past week. We also saw a woman try to throw a midget in a barrel. It's been a whole thing. So yeah, we covered a lot of stuff.
A lot of midget throwing across our shows here.
Yeah. Apparently they have this whole contest in Mexico where they just have a woman try to put a midget in a barrel. It's the weirdest thing. So,
Richard, you forgot that how-to guide that y'all had with the how to woo a horse. So make sure you're listening to that. And also we had a furry, which I actually said, what the fuck during that part. And what was the funniest part about the show this week was that there was an inside joke going on. Y'all were laughing about it. And I love that. I love inside jokes. And I do get it. And I know this is going to surprise everyone, but I really think Josh would dig Suzanne Summers' grave up and pucker right now. I really do. That's just how much he loves
BT. She's been gone for almost 2 years. It's done right now.
Oh my God, it's right.
How's that for a preview? All right. Well, hey,
and Richard was sick, so there you go. That's a good thing too.
There you go. The foremost authority on recaps of P3 Radio, Mr. BT, my friend. You can, even though we're not going to be around for a couple of weeks, you still can call 256 Egg Iron and leave a message. In fact, I forgot to check the messages. Perhaps I need to check the messages and plug one in here at the end. Maybe we heard from somebody. I don't know. We shall see.
Hey, before you boys go off riding into the sunset to different pastures or wherever you're going, I wanted to tell you something. You boys have been trying to rattle the cage of the dogs, and you're rattling a little bit too hard, brother. Everybody's noticing. You've been asking every Tom, Dick, Harry, and Larry on Facebook, whatever the hell that is, if I'm dead or not. Do you punks not have caller ID on your telephones? How the fuck would I be calling that dumbass Egg Iron number if I was dead? Is it going to take me and some of my dogs showing up to your doorstep to convince you that I ain't dead? Maybe that's the next step.
Let's remind you about a couple other things. You can find everything related to this podcast, merch, the Facebook page, all that great stuff over at USWA Podcast.club. You can check out all the other great pro wrestling content from Ray Russell at WrestleCopia.com, all our fellow podcasters over there at WrestleCopia. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this show. We'd certainly appreciate it. It helps us get more listeners and viewers, and more people can find some old Memphis wrestling and hear us talk about it, bitch about it, put it over, all the different things we do here. And also check out DougGilbertPodcast.com to find dangerous conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. Those guys check in every week with some fun topics, stories, different things from their career. And you can find all their social media links. You can find out where to listen to the show, as well as t-shirt store and all that over at DougGilbertPodcast.com. And if you haven't yet, please go out, Google Eddie Gilbert book, and buy it from your book retailer of choice. It's all over the place out there. Getting a lot of good feedback on it. Or you can come to Tupelo or Booneville here at the end of the month, and you can buy one straight from me. And I'd appreciate that as well. But thank you to everyone who has purchased the book. And I love getting people sending me their pictures of the book and telling me what they think. And it's been a really cool experience, and I'm currently working on another book with a guy that we've talked a lot about on this show, and that's been fun. I've gotten to hear a lot of stories from the time period we're talking about, as well as others, and I'm looking forward to being able to announce that book when it gets ready to come out, and we'll be going around and having it at shows and signing it and all that good stuff. So it's been a fun year. It's been a big year. 1993 here on the show has come to a close. Never fear. 1991 is on the way. But join us next week to hear from Moondog Splat. We'll also talk about his time as the Mighty Goliath, teaming up with Big Bubba. I'm sure he's got some fun stories about downtown Bruno as a manager. And then maybe he can give us some insight about Richard Lee. Who knows? And we will catch you next week for the interview portion of the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast.